Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Inside the Den podcast here on WSBC Radio, where each week we take a closer look into the St. Vincent Athletics. I'm joined this evening by my co-host, Colt Easterling. Colt, how are you?
Doing well, Andrew. I think we have a little bit of athletics news to discuss at the top of our show before we dive deeper into the weeks that our Bearcats had, though.
Yeah, we do. So it's interesting. We do have some big news. So last week, the St. Vincent Athletic Department relieved football coach Aaron Smetanka of his coaching duties. St. Vincent went 1-9 this season, and they went 19-36 overall when he was at the helm. And our interim athletic director released a statement this week, and I'll read it to everyone. He said in a comment, "We are committed to assembling a coaching staff that will excel at developing the skills and characters of our student athletes. As we embark on this search, we are confident that we will find candidates with the vision and drive to move our program forward. We look forward to the next chapter in St. Vincent football." So obviously some mixed emotions, Colt. Coach Smetanka was, I think, well-liked. He was a good person, and I think he was a good football mind. It just didn't seem like a great fit here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, no one ever really had anything bad to say about the guy. Him and his family were always here on campus, helping out wherever they could. Not even just in the football realm, but truly throughout the campus, helping students with whatever they need. He was always available to help. That is true for all these faculty members here at St. Vincent.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, and obviously the teams haven't had great success over the last few years. I think especially this year, though, they were pretty injury-ridden, and there was some issues with who was eligible to play. So this season might not have totally been on him, but sometimes you just need a little bit of a shake-up at the top, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach Smetanka actually released his own formal thank you after his release, and I'll go a little bit into that. His final statements as a Bearcat were, "I want to thank the student athletes for their dedication and effort, and the fans and community for their unwavering support. I am proud of the relationships I've built and the positive impact we've had on the development of young athletes both on and off the field. God bless." So yeah, I mean, just goes to show, amazing guy, but just not necessarily the correct fit here for our Bearcats on the field.
Yeah, and I believe the coordinators were let go too, and I'm hearing from some of the other guys there might be a couple more shakeups coming in. I think they're kind of looking to just gut it and start from scratch here.
I mean, they did that last season. They brought in an entirely new offensive coaching staff. I mean, obviously there's going to be some growing pains with that. I mean, can't expect to be perfect with an entirely new offensive coaching side of the ball. But
again, yeah, especially for these guys who are upperclassmen, this will now be their third.
Yeah, their
third staff. Yeah,
right. I think both the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. I'm blanking on the names. I believe Coach Bell and Coach London.
I think that's I think
were the other two that were included in that article that was sent out. But yeah, sad to see him go, but I'm excited for the future of Bearcat football.
Yeah, hopefully we get to have a competitive team next year. And I was talking to my roommate Logan, who we had on last week. The division's really good here, so the football team, they might have had a great season, but we got three nationally ranked teams in this program, in this conference, excuse me. So, it's a real uphill battle here for these guys. So just some marginal improvement next year should be celebrated.
Yeah, three teams nationally ranked. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of Division III football teams. To have three representatives from the PAC, I mean, I think that goes to show how competitive football here can be.
Mm-hmm.
Carnegie, Grove City, and Case Western, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, all three of those teams had phenomenal seasons, and hoping for positive slope for Bearcats next season.
Absolutely. So do you want to, moving on from that, Cole, do you want to start us off with our first team for the week?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll kick it off with women's basketball. I had the opportunity to broadcast that game, had a lot of fun there. It was their first home game of the season. They unfortunately lost this Saturday to Marietta, 61-50, which brings their overall record to 0-3, but they have not played a PAC game yet. Camden Basher and McKenna Mayer both had very impressive games. Basher finished with 13 points, which led the team, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. McKenna Mayer finished with 10 points, 8 rebounds, which led the team, 3 assists, which was tied for the team lead, and she also had a block as well. Jill Manarino had a solid game on both sides of the ball, too, with 10 points and 3 steals. They'll play the Chatham Cougars next Wednesday at 6, and the Teal Tomcats on Saturday at 1 o'clock, and both of these games are away. And two things I will note that I noticed during the game was the turnover differential between the teams and the points they scored off those turnovers. At the end of the first half, Marietta had 18 points off turnovers to St. Vincent's only 2.
Oh, wow.
So if they're able to clean that up, I think they'll be in good hands. And another thing that I noticed was they did a really, really good job locking down Marietta's number one option, who had scored, I think, 18 and 19 points in their previous 2 games. I think they only held her to 5 points this game, but that did allow for other players to kind of get involved and make a little more magic happen on the offensive side of the ball without her being their number one option. But yeah.
Yeah, that is the struggle, I think, with basketball with such limited numbers on the court. Obviously teams usually have someone who's kind of running the offense.
Mm-hmm.
So isolating them while also not leaving the other athletes who are college athletes who are very capable of putting double-digit points up on a team. That hard balance there, I think, definitely struggles sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they also lost 3 of their best players in program history last season to graduations, which is unfortunate. But I mean, these girls have the heart and the talent to get it done this season.
Yeah, so. It's on the upperclassmen now to start developing these younger athletes for sure.
Absolutely.
So we'll move on to men's basketball now, who had a bit of a fire and ice weekend last weekend. They won their first game against William P. 74-68. It was a strong game all around for the Bearcats, with 5 players having double-digit points, including Dev Ostrowski, who we had on last week. Another solid game for him. I talked to him yesterday, and he said that it wasn't good enough.
No,
so once again,
of course not.
Always looking for improvement. Ossian Jones and Maxwell Jordan also had 11 points, and there was a couple others. St. Vincent shot 31 for 72, good for 43% from the field on the day. So all around a good game for the Bearcats. And then we get on to the Roanoke game, where the guys took a bit of a beating, losing 57-101. Yeah. Roanoke's a pretty good program, Colt, so nothing to be too ashamed about there, but I don't think the guys were thrilled about that game.
No, you can't be. I mean, it's a very large deficit, but Roanoke's been a powerhouse of a basketball school for quite a while now. Obviously, that's a hard game to start your season off with, but
I think
get through
it. There'll be a chip on the shoulder now for these guys. Dev Ostrowski and Ossian Jones, once again, led the Bearcats both with 11 points, but beyond that, Maroons pretty much controlled the rest of the game.
Yeah.
They will be back in action this week on Wednesday for the PAC opener against Chatham at 8 p.m. in Pittsburgh. So I'm sure the guys are excited to get those in-conference games going.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll move on to the girls cross country now, who competed at the NCAA Midwest Regional, and they ran a 6K race. As a team, they finished 7th out of 30, and there was a total of 218 runners. The top 3 teams were Johns Hopkins, Carnegie Mellon, and Gettysburg. The girls on St. Vincent finished with an average time of 22:51. Freshman Grace Newbert finished 7th place overall with a final time of 21:28, and this actually breaks a 13-year-old St. Vincent record set in 2011 by Yvette Mejia. So, freshman Grace Newbert with already a record-setting time.
Congratulations to her. That's impressive.
Midwest Regional. Junior Miranda Sincata finished 43rd place with 22:39 as her time. Junior Cassie Lanza finished 53rd. Kristen Prince finished 61st. And junior Lily Murphy finished 86th overall. This was actually their best regional finish in program history. And with her 7th place finish, Grace Newbert will compete in the NCAA National Championship meet on Saturday, November 23rd.
All right, so good luck to them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to move on now to women's volleyball, who had their season end last week in a heartbreaking fashion. Yeah. They lost the PAC championship game to Allegheny, but it's of note that it was the first appearance in the PAC championship in program history for the women's volleyball team. Mm-hmm. So once again, the women teams are making some history at St. Vincent. So obviously, I'm sure they're very upset to have lost that game, but still a very good season overall. They lost all 3 sets to Allegheny. They were all very competitive, though. They were close games between 2 really good teams. Mm-hmm. Lauren Fox and Vivian Poche were named to the All-PAC team, so congratulations to them.
Nice.
And during the game, Megan Williams led the way for the Bearcats with 9 kills, who I believe we will have on later in this show to interview. Dakota Hirschberger recorded a team-high 19 digs, while Vivian Poche had 20 assists in the match. Nice. Stacey Ramos had 17 digs, and Poche added 12 of her own. So solid games for the Bearcats. They couldn't just pull this one out.
Yeah, was really close. I mean, they won the Chatham game here at Latrobe. I think the home court advantage certainly helped them.
I would agree. Yeah.
Allegheny was perfect all season, and they weren't going to let St. Vincent beat them
No,
in the championship.
they'll go in with the chip on their shoulder now, though, for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a sneaky suspicion that Megan has a good chance at Pack Rookie of the Year, though. I mean, she's been so good all year, and she'll be able to talk a little bit about that, spell that out more later in the episode.
Absolutely, yeah. She's had a stellar year. I think she's been at just about every recap we've done for women's volleyball.
Yeah, seems like it. I'll go to men's cross country now, who also competed at the NCAA Midwest Regional, but they ran an 8K race as opposed to the women running a 6K. As a team, they finished 10th overall out of 30 teams, and there was a total of 216 runners. The men have an average time of 26:21. The top three finishers were Carnegie Mellon, Johns Hopkins, and Marywood College. Graduate Tim Patterson finished at the top of the board for the Bearcats at 13th place with a final time of 24:50. Senior Ethan Weimer placed 43rd with a final time of 25:48. Aiden Jackson finished in 72nd. Jeffrey Rayner finished in 92nd. And senior John Simmons finished just inside the top 100 in 99th place with a final time of 26:50. And with Patterson's 10th place overall, he was able to finish and qualify for the NCAA National Championship meet next Saturday, November 23rd. So him and Grace are going to head over to Indiana together to hopefully bring home some hardware.
Yeah, absolutely. Multiple athletes representing St. Vincent at the national level. It's pretty good season for them. So we had another team begin their season last week. Wrestling started their season on Tuesday, where they lost to Shippensburg 34-14. The team started off great, and it was looking like it was going to be a comfortable win for them in their first match of the season. They went up 14-0, but they just couldn't seem to hold on. Ryan Klingensmith, Kyle McCullum, and Ryan Yoakum each won for the Bearcats, but then after that, Shippensburg went to win the next 7 weight classes. So a little bit to improve on. Obviously, they started off great, Colt, but I think this is going to be a really good program this year. So I think they're going to use this as a motivator.
Yeah, 100%.
They will return to action on Wednesday. They will travel to Penn State Behrend for a non-conference match. That will be beginning at 7 p.m.
Awesome. And to mention as well, the Shippensburg's D2 program, I believe, at least for wrestling. So.
Yeah, I think across the board, but I definitely for wrestling. Yeah. So once again, the St. Vincent's been playing. I don't want to say playing up because it makes it sound like it's like a rec league thing, like playing older kids, but they're certainly playing above what most people think they should be playing, like
100%.
team wise. So it's good for them. I think that's better for programs to play those upper level teams and make a difference.
Yeah, 100%. And if you don't mind, I will mention something about cross country or men's cross country. All 5 of the runners that finished top 5 for the men were either seniors or graduate students. So I think we're going to have an entirely different men's cross country team next season, which, I mean, that's definitely going to be tough for the guys that didn't finish top 5 that maybe don't run as much. They're definitely going to need to, put another foot forward, not to make a joke out of it, but you guys know what I mean. Also be tough for the coaching staff. I mean, they've been able to rely on these 5 guys for the past however many years, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be difficult, but it'll be very interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, they'll test the strength of their development in the program for sure. Tim touched on that a little bit last week with all of their off-season stuff, so I'm sure they'll be implementing some stuff for these younger guys, and I don't know, knowing how they've turned out these guys so far, St. Vincent could be on top again next year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Moving on now to men's swimming, who won their first meet of the season. They won 144-79 for their first win of the year, moving their record to 1-3 overall and 1-1 in the pack. Liam Randolph kicked off the scoring in the men's 1,000 freestyle with a final time of 11:19. The 200 freestyle was also won by St. Vincent this time. It was Jacob Doritza with a winning margin of 6 seconds. He would also win the 50-yard freestyle with a time of 21:44, and he also won the 200 backstroke. Senior Robert Harrington would win the 200-yard breaststroke with a final time of 2:30. Golfer and swimmer Alex Luskavansky won the 100 butterfly, finishing that in 57 seconds. Liam Randolph picked up yet another win in the 200 IM in the men's final individual race of the evening, and they will be back on the road next week for a 3-day event at the Malone University Invitational, starting on Thursday into Friday and then ending on Saturday.
As we'll talk about in a second, the women's team is heading there too. A lot of the St. Vincent teams are doing these it seems like these bigger events, trying to get the school out there a little bit, which I think is a great idea. So, finally this week we have women's swimming, who won fairly comfortable, 170-82, which brings their season record to 3-2. Rachel Hutchinson picked up 2 wins, and she won the 1,000-yard freestyle and the 500-yard freestyle for St. Vincent. Sarah Alexander and Cecilia Hicken also both had individual wins at the meet. Sarah Alexander won the 200-yard freestyle, and Cecilia Hicken won the 50-yard freestyle. As Colt mentioned, the Bearcats will go to the Malone University Invitational starting on Thursday, hoping to once again bring home some hardware from a big event.
Yeah, absolutely. Did Deanna do anything this week? Do you know?
I think, Deanna. They opened up with the 200 medley relay, and Deanna was once again part of that team. They finished in second place for the weekend.
Good to hear.
Yep. So all these athletes that come on, you're gonna be continuously.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Does that do it for our recaps this week,
I believe
Cole?
so. We're gonna have Megan on next to talk about a little bit about her freshman campaign. And now we are joined by freshman outside hitter who is a nursing major, Megan Williams. Megan, thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for inviting me. I'm excited.
Awesome.
Of course. So we're going to start off with like I said before we started recording, it might be a dumb question, but for people who don't understand about how a volleyball match works, can you explain it a little bit? Because it's almost like there's games within the game itself,
Yeah. So, for college and high school too, it's best of 5 sets. But you have to win 3 sets to win a match. So, it could be 3-0 or, you could go back and forth, but basically you have to have 3 of the sets won to win the game.
Okay. All right. See, I don't know why I thought it was 4, but I was like, no, because then they could tie, so that makes no sense whatsoever. But
can you pinpoint a favorite moment this season? I mean, I'm sure there's plenty to choose from, but is there one that stands out to you?
Oh, that's a good question. I would have to say probably the semifinal match right before the championship, because the energy in the Carey Center was amazing. I was not expecting that turnout, honestly. From what I've heard in the past from my teammates, volleyball didn't get that much traction from people, but this year people really came out. We were nervous because they set up the other side of the bleachers, and we were that would be embarrassing if nobody shows up. But it was packed in there. The energy was great. It was so fun.
Awesome. Yeah, getting the second bleachers is a big step.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're not messing around anymore. You're not the first athlete to say too that the energy in the Carey Center is a big thing. So I think that's a testament to our students.
Yeah.
Do you think it helps you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because we felt it at Allegheny, whether we want to admit it or not. They had a lot of fans there, and it's really hard to play in that situation. So it definitely was helping in our favor.
It's not fun being on the other side.
No.
So, as a freshman, how did it feel to come into your first collegiate season and make it so close to a title, and then getting a chance to play it at a national level too? How was that all manifested so quickly?
Yeah, it was. I want to say overwhelming a little bit, but I feel like the support that I had from my teammates, it didn't feel quite as scary or as big in the moment. The more that I think back, I'm like, wow, that was really fast getting into, playing and stuff. But honestly, you just get caught up in the moment, and it was so much fun. And I'm really glad that we were able to make that good of a season for our seniors. And we were the first in program history to make it to the PAC championship. So that's a really great accomplishment. I'm really proud of our team.
Yeah, we did just talk about that in our recap, actually. So, yeah, congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
So following up on that a little bit, how was it adjusting to going to college and playing a sport right off the bat? Do you guys get here early?
Yeah, we come early August, late July, I think it was. I can't even remember what the exact date was, but we start with just a week of preseason right before classes. So we have a little bit of time to settle in.
Okay.
I feel like it could have gone way worse for me, but this sounds like I'm being fake, but it honestly was not that bad for me. I settled in pretty easily, but I also have 2 older siblings who went through college, so I kind of had some hints on what to do, what not to do, and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you had that resource. I'm sure that was helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, can you talk a little bit more about the atmosphere at the Pac Championship game? Like, I mean, I could be wrong, but that may have been one of your bigger games in your career, at
Hmm.
least since numbers and attendance, I could say.
Hmm.
So you just talk about playing in an environment like that.
It was definitely overwhelming. We had the Allegheny fans screaming at us when we went back to serve. I personally am used to it because I feel like high school fans are even worse than what I
You get some of those
experienced.
immature 14, 15-year-olds that have no
Yeah.
problem saying whatever they feel like.
Yes, and especially for me as a freshman coming in and playing full rotation, I definitely am one of the people that they're gonna look to pick on, especially when you're having a bigger game.
They see you as an easy target.
Yeah, yeah. I've definitely gotten like better at ignoring it, but you hear everything, so it's kind of it can get in your head, but it just depends how you go about it. But it definitely was an energy killer to play with that many Allegheny fans, and I think that's part of the reason that the game went the way it did. I mean, they played great, obviously. I won't take that away from them, but we definitely did not have enough energy built up to challenge them enough.
So you touched on a little bit how you guys like getting mentally ready. How do you specifically prepare for a match? And has that changed since you were in high school to now, getting to go so far in the playoffs too? Like you've really kind of experienced almost everything you can at the collegiate level, obviously besides playing in winning a championship, playing in a national championship.
Yeah.
But so how has that changed at all for you? How you prepare?
Um, Not necessarily. For me, I normally like set up a time where I'm just kind of like by myself and like focused in my head, and then I set up time where I'm talking to my teammates, we're talking about the game, getting prepared, motivating each other. But normally I like to listen to music. It gives me like some time just to calm down because it is overwhelming. Some of the atmospheres, it's definitely overwhelming. So yeah, I really just try to take time just to kind of rein in all my thoughts before a game, leave everything outside of that, especially as a nursing major, you got a lot of stuff going on. So I really just try and leave that all outside.
That's good. Do you have a favorite song, like a go-to
Oh.
game day song?
Not necessarily because I get tired of songs like really fast, so I have to keep switching around. But I'm a country lover personally. I like country music.
That's the only right answer.
Good answer too. So you had a 5-game losing streak in September, but you were able to finish 10-2 after that. Very impressive. So how were you personally and the team able to keep in good spirits after that skid?
Yeah, that was a rough time. At the beginning, our preseason poll, we were ranked 8th, and that took that to the heart a little bit. Yeah, yeah, definitely took that to heart. I'm very competitive. I don't like, people talking down on me or my team. And we definitely had a rough start. There was a lot of connections that weren't clicking at first. But we just had to settle down and realize how much potential we had because we had such great players from the start. And it wasn't a matter of like increasing skill. It was just figuring out how we work the best with each other. And that was switching around different people sometimes. Jess, our senior middle that ended as a middle, was not a middle from the beginning of the season. And we just had to tweak some things around, figure out how the connections worked. And just like learning each other. There were 2 freshmen, me and Dakota, on the court, and we didn't know the older girls, and some of the older girls hadn't played, gotten playing time in the past years. So it really just took time, getting to know each other, and almost immediately things started clicking, and we were tired of being doubted because we knew how good we were, and it finally just we started pushing and clicking, and yeah.
I do think people miss that sometimes when like looking at college sports. It really is a melting pot of people, sometimes from all over the world, who have gone to different schools, had different experiences, and most of you guys, I'm sure, were some of the best athletes at your high school. Like that's just the nature of going to college. So adjusting to all of that in such a competitive atmosphere, and like you said, you guys were ranked 8th. So all of this stuff in your head, I'm sure, played a factor. So maybe I don't know. So are you guys gonna? Do you approach that differently next season now going into it?
I think we definitely have like a newfound confidence in the conference, I think. I think at the beginning, everybody was a little bit tentative. I know me personally, I was tentative, especially just as a freshman. Like, you don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to let your older teammates down. But we were talking after the championship match, even like next year, I don't think we're going to be ranked 8th anymore.
No,
like
I would
people
hope
are
not.
going to definitely be looking at us different, and I think that's in our advantage because now we know that nobody can doubt us anymore, and we have a reputation to uphold.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned a little bit about wanting to win for the seniors and that you came ever so close. So I want to know what next season may look like after losing some of these cornerstones of the program, I would say.
It's definitely going to be a lot to fill. A lot of very, very key players, and a lot of girls who have played the past couple years. We do have a deep bench, though, so I think that some of the younger girls are just going to have to be ready to fill those spots and be competitive coming in, wanting to get on the court and practice and preseason and stuff, because we're going to need them next year. But I think we have a lot of people that are ready to step into those positions, but it's not going to be the same from the start, obviously. It's definitely going to take a lot of work, but we do have people that I think have potential to step in.
So this might be a confusing question, so please tell me to stop if it is. So do you think as a freshman and maybe some of your other freshman teammates too, do you guys view the way the season ended differently than some of the upperclassmen do? Like, so I don't know. Do you view this as a fortunate way to start your career and like a jumping path, or was this a missed opportunity for you guys?
For me, and I think even some of the older girls too, like the juniors that'll be seniors next year, they were kind of thinking like, we know how this feels, how this loss feels, and we're not going to let it happen again next year. We know what we want, and it's obviously sad to lose our seniors. They're really great friends, and we have great bonds, but it just comes down to the competitive aspect. For me, I'm like, that felt awful, and I'm not letting that happen again. But I think it just depends on the person. I think that it was a really great start for me personally. It was a really big season, and the fact that past seasons were nothing like it, I see that as a really great start and can only go up from there. But I think it just depends on the person, how they look at that.
Yeah, I agree. I have one more for you. So, do you see volleyball as more of a mental or physical challenge
The classic
for
Colt
you?
question.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you have to be very, very fit, very in shape to be running around, even though it's small court, right?
Yeah.
But you got to be running around all the time. Diving, getting up again, always on the mark. But I think it's very mental as well. So do you mind diving into that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's a tough question because it definitely takes a lot. I'd say, like as a beginner, it's mainly like a physical thing, especially when you're younger. Like it's not as competitive, you don't care as much, so you're just working on the fundamentals. But definitely as you get older and especially coming into college, it becomes a lot more of a mental thing. I know for me personally, you make a couple hitting errors in big games, and you really have to rein your brain back in because it's so hard to just go straight down and keep digging yourself deeper. So I definitely think at this point in my career, it's more of a mental thing. I've gotten a lot better at being able to leave the last plays behind, and I think that was something big that we worked on this season and talked about is leaving the last play behind, and especially in the beginning of the season when we were not, doing so well. We really sat on those bad plays and the mistakes and stuff. But then we started to move on, look what we could do different the next play. So I definitely think that the mental capacity has to be really strong for a volleyball player because the game moves so fast and it's one point after the other, and somebody has to win the point after each play, and you just kind of have to move on and leave it behind.
So my last question, now having completed one full season here, what would you want some incoming recruits to know who will be coming in next year as that process, I would assume, is underway for your next year's class?
Yes.
What would you want them to know about the program in general and about the leadership that you guys have, and coaches and captains?
Yeah. I definitely want them to realize, like, how important the season is to us because we did have such a big year. And we need everybody to come in, work as hard as they can. You can be friends with each other, but when it comes to practice, you got to fight to get on the court. You got to fight for playing time. And we need people who are going to give their all and who really do care about their performance and playing as a team. And I want people to come in who want to win because that's what the rest of us want to do.
This is the most sincere answer. I feel like all the
No,
other ones
that's
we've gotten.
phenomenal.
We have a good program, and all, which is great, and that's not taking anything
No,
away
we
from
want
those. But that's a very thought out answer.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm out of questions. If you have anything else,
No, I'm all good. Megan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you guys for having me.
Congrats on a good year for you. Sorry it
Thank
ended
you.
that way, but you had
Thank
a
you.
very good
I
year.
appreciate it. Thank you.
A big thanks to Megan for joining us tonight. I think she gave a great interview, Colt. Very, very thoughtful answers to our questions, and she's a competitive athlete.
she is. You can tell by her answers as well. She did a really good job answering everything. So yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I respect that she doesn't, she's a freshman, and sometimes younger people seem like nervous on teams. She's a competitive person. She knows what the message is on the team, and she wasn't shy about it.
She knows she's good, which I think is like half the battle. I mean, you have to believe in yourself first, and I can see that she does, which is amazing to see.
Yeah, as she said, the mental part in volleyball is big, and I think it helps. And I should have asked her this. I'm sure in volleyball it helps. It's such a fast-paced sport that if you were to mess up, your chance might come to redeem yourself in a second and a half. It's such a fast-paced sport, so you can't get down on yourself for long.
Right. I mean, there's games where over 100 points are scored, so being able to leave the bad ones behind is very, very important. You can't let that weigh on your shoulders for too long, or else you're going to be out of it in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to do it for our latest episode of the Inside the Den podcast. Big week. We had a good interview, some news to talk about, and we'll be back next week with our new episode. So athletes, have some good weeks, and we'll try to get you on next week before Thanksgiving.
Yep. We'll sign off for now. Thanks again to Megan, and we'll see you next week.